I know you have a losing it story for me. I have 25 more questions, but I feel like some of my questions might be answered by your losing it story. But I'm ready to hear it.
Sure. And, it's related to everything that we've been saying. This is more or less the story of how I lost self-hate.
Oh, fantastic.
I had moved to the monastery, and in the monastery where I trained, we lived in individual, they were called hermitages, little huts where you'd be by yourself. And often I trained with not being able to sleep, which is an issue for a lot of people, especially around self-hate. All of a sudden you're awake at 3 a.m. and it's like, you did this and you said that. And let's replay every awful thing that you ever did with your life. So I got to look at all that stuff in the space and the context of being away from, what we might call regular society. And I was about to go. So I had done a couple of different stays at the monastery, and I was about to leave the monastery and go back out to that regular world. It was the night before.
And how old were you, Jeffrey?
Oh, gosh. This must be 15 or so years ago. So around late 20s, 30, somewhere around there. And I started having especially difficult thoughts, and not, when I talk about these issues, so I'm about to talk about suicidal thoughts.
Okay.
When I talk about these issues, I always try to balance not triggering folks, which is important if they want to keep themselves safe, but also not stigmatizing the subject. Because there are a lot of people who feel like they're the only ones who have thoughts like that.
Yeah.
And these thoughts were coming in a big wave that particular night. And I remember the moon was just big. It was close. And, the air was, this was in California, so it was like crisp, clean air. And just these constant thoughts that I shouldn't be here. And the reasons why. And, what the physical sensations to go with that. And all of this was coming to a head. And the meditation hall at the monastery was open 24/7. And I just went into the meditation hall by the moonlight and sat facing the wall and literally sat with those thoughts. And this was the first time in my life that I realized that I had how do I want to phrase it? I realized how powerless those thoughts are. I know that they affect a lot of people. I want to affirm that they are difficult for everyone. And I saw that just because my thoughts say something, I don't have to do something. And something broke. The chain of I think this, therefore I have to do this was broken for me in those moments. And it helped me immeasurably in all of my life, because I realized if my thoughts don't mean anything about me, then certainly other people's thoughts don't mean anything about me either.
Wow.
Right? Their opinions of me don't mean anything. I started treating myself very well after that.
That was 15 years ago. And I always feel like for me, that I always have this expectation that recovery or getting better or, therapy or whatever is going to be sort of this beautiful, 45-degree angle of an upward trajectory and right. And then when it's not, I'm so surprised, and like once you realize something, then so walk me through a little bit about how you got from there to, I'm happy to go all the way to the present, but I do think that when you were doing these 6.5 second videos on Vine, that seems to me to also be another, pivotal moment where you've you have this message and you have to get it out there. So how did you go from that moment in the meditation room where I love what you said about, just because you think it doesn't necessarily mean it's true or doesn't necessarily mean you have to act on it, that what your own thoughts think about you, then certainly other people's thoughts about you don't mean anything.
Totally irrelevant.
That was the word I was looking for, are totally irrelevant. And my God, it's so unbelievably true. And yet, I don't want to use the word radical, but it's kind of radical because, how much time it's possible to spend your entire day thinking about other people, what other people think of you. I can wonder what the teller at the bank thinks about me. I'll never see her again. And when I realize that I'm doing it, I'm like, she's not thinking about you, Nelsie. You know what I mean? So anyway, so you have this moment, and then what? You're in your late 20s, early 30s.
I want to ask you a meta question. I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to turn things around.
Flip it.
So you said something so profound and important about worrying about what a bank teller thinks about you, and the realization that probably that bank teller is not even. It's not even like that bank teller is thinking something positive or negative about you. That bank teller's at lunch. Doesn't care.
Right.
And then afterwards you said, well, anyway, that was such an important, profound thing, and I don't think it's in any way, if you know what I mean. That was actually incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just recognized a habit in myself for years and years and years to say the most profound thing, the most vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
And then to say, well, anyway. And not even in like a dismissive thing, but in like a protecting myself thing. Because I don't want people to judge me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's because it's pretty knee jerk. It's pretty knee jerk. The well anyway, right? It's pretty knee jerk, right? Yeah. So that's a good, thank you for that. Yep. I appreciate that. And I just want to say that I'm so grateful that I continue to grow and that I meet people like you, and that I somewhere in my late 50s, early 60s, when I went through a really dark time and was so mad that I wasn't fixed yet. So fucking mad. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? It was like, I'm not done yet. I do know what you mean. Yeah. So, and then something happened. I met Svetlana, and I went from being mad to being grateful, to being, to discovering new things, to seeing myself differently, to realizing that I was never broken, that I've always been perfect, and that I can also continue to grow from, like, hopefully from now on till after I take my last breath, So, and meeting you and growing because of the way you talk about the LGBTQ plus community and talk about they, them, and talk about pronouns made me grow. Because I'm a cisgender woman, and I'm
Are you sure it was me? Are you sure it was me? Are you sure you didn't grow on your own?
Oh, no.
Used me as an excuse?
Yes. No, I used you as an excuse to grow.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is it's easy to go, I'm of a certain age and I grew up and my brother's gay. And so, I don't have to know all that new stuff, which doesn't seem to have anything mean in it. But listening to you gave me a perspective that I did not have and that I didn't even know I needed. So that is the gift that you gave me, and that you, I think, are giving a lot of cisgender people, because it's easy to make an LGBTQ plus joke. And most of those jokes happen if you are lacking compassion and understanding.
Yeah. And what you made me think of is someone who says to themselves, I'm old and I'm not going to learn this new stuff, they're probably not learning the quote unquote new stuff for them of undermining the self-hate in their lives.
Yes. Yes.
So if you want to commit across the board to being stuck in your ways, I would examine my ways.
Examine my ways.
before I want to make sure I'm going to, commit to being stuck in them.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that when I said it's easy to make an LGBTQ joke, what I was talking about in that specific thing is,
I love that you said it.
Joke about that whole, all those letters. You know what I mean? Like, this, not
of
joking.
Course.
And in my mind, I'm not joking about the people, but it's so dismissive. And you pointed that out for me in a way that I could hear it.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that. I didn't mind when you said it, for the record, and it is easy.
Yeah. We
are one of the groups of people on the earth for whom it is still socially acceptable to hate us, to hate on us, to make jokes, to...
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood does it. So, we're not quite there yet. We're getting better, but we're not quite there yet with total acceptance for people like us.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for all of that.
Of course. And the other thing, the other metaphor that you bring up for me is people tell me, that hateful people will always say, you're too sensitive. Why do you have to have all these pronouns and don't be so sensitive, right? And I just think, how in the world did your mom and dad treat you? So that your driving force in life is to try to police other people out of being sensitive.
Out of being sensitive, right. It's not what I said or how I said it or what I did. It's that you're too sensitive. Stop being so sensitive. Oh my goodness. I had some, and also the idea of that, how did your mom and dad treat you? And what is your own level of self-judgment, right? Because for me, and not that I'm free of judgment, I'm not free of judgment for myself and others, but I'm getting better. And I notice that as much as I judge, as my self-judgment eases and goes down, so does my judgment of others. So does as my compassion for self increases, so does my compassion for others. Losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it. If you